Welcome back, everyone. This is Cody Hart for Government Accountability. It is September 11th, and I have not talked to you guys in a while. Been very, very busy. And so I wanted to get some news out that I've been working on. And today I'm going to share with you the title of the article is about election interference tactics, and it's really an emphasis on the primary election this last year, 2024, what my experience has been, what things I've seen and found out about, and to share with everyone it's not all butterflies and rainbows in this political environment we're in, and to help other candidates out there understand what they're getting themselves into, hopefully to prepare them. I'm pretty thick-skinned, but I did get caught off guard by some things. So I'm going to be going into a lot of detail on certain things, and other things I'm just touching on because of the sensitivity of the issues, and sharing my opinions today for everyone out there who wants to get a little educated on election interference and the political environment in Washington State. So to start, I'm going to talk about multiple subjects. I'm going to cover the media and some of my experience with the media outlets. I'm going to cover the state experiences I had in the election offices as a candidate. I'm also going to share some other very personal things that I haven't really talked about that are a little more complicated and have a lot bigger consequences. But I think every candidate out there really needs to prepare for much of what I'm saying today, especially if you're like me. If you're against the establishment and you expose government corruption, there are risks involved. And I don't want anyone to go into this stuff naive, not understanding some of the things they'll do. So let's start into it. So first, I wanted to talk about some of the media outlets. So Bellingham Herald, I'm not a big fan. They don't like me. I know that. Writers in it don't like me. They've not had a very impressive interaction with me over time. So for those in Whatcom County, you probably know this. I'll just say it. My opinion, they're not a very honest outfit, and the reporters in them use tactics that other candidates may want to learn from what I've experienced. So they just like many other newspaper outlets, they do articles on all the candidates. And in this primary election, there was a number of us. And I'll just share some of the things that happened to me. So the primary reporter that I interacted with them was Robert Mittendorf. And so what you have in front of you is a number of questions that he asked me about my candidacy. And not knowing anyone else's and how we interact with them, I said, okay, he's asking the same thing of everybody. But that does not appear to be the case, and there's actually much more to it. So one of the questions that you'll see in here, I'll just point out, what rank did I achieve in the Navy? Very straightforward. I answered him. I achieved a rank of E5, second class petty officer. Very proud of that. And then they originally published it. He demoted me. I had to let him know that. He also did not ask for a photo to post in this original July 8th request. He later on ended up asking for it just a few days before the article went out, but it ended up not posting any photo of me. And I said, well, I guess mistakes happen. He'd asked me about name of the business I worked at, and I had to share with him my feelings that I did not want him to share anything personal like that because of security risks for my employees and company and things of that nature. And I'd never seen anyone else actually answer that question. But I did get another candidate who shared with me the questions they'd asked. Robert had asked him. And so an example of this is, hey, this is from Robert Mittendorf. I'm writing an article. Your biography seems complete. You can send us a photo to use in the story. No other questions, nothing else. And so he obviously knew what he wanted to write about that candidate, and not the same questions, didn't ask the same questions, and it's just not a level playing field. And again, being demoted in his original article, he did correct it after I told him. Adding my photo after the article was originally publicized with no photo, he did do that, but it was unnecessary. And then the questions he asked, again, he asked me very specific questions to post in his article, the Bellingham Herald. And then he didn't ask other people those questions, and the readers don't know. The candidates are being asked different questions, and he is narrating the subjects differently for each candidate. For whatever reason he did that, it is kind of dirtbag. He's not the Bellingham Herald and Robert Mittendorf. They're not the only example of things I had problems with. As another example, the Would-Be News Times, which is owned, I believe, by Sound Publishing Group. They did a story for Would-Be Island. Again, I think there's 7 or 9 candidates, and they only do an article on one of them. So I don't think they even mentioned who the other candidates were. I'd have to reread it to tell you that for sure. And I talked to the reporter on this. They said, well, there's so many candidates, they just chose to do one about the local candidate. So again, it's a news media outlet selecting who they're going to do stories about in an actual political race. The people don't know any different. This has other implications for those who are unaware. There are rules about this stuff, such as the in-kind contributions the FEC has. So if I were to pay for a full article that this newspaper did just about me, I'd probably pay, I don't know, $400, $800, $1,000. And they apparently did this for free. I'm not positive. That's what I believe about one of the candidates and not any of the other candidates. So seem fair? Not really. I don't know if there's any laws broken, but it sure seems suspicious to me. And at least I would think they would report it as a donation to the candidate that they selectively picked to do a story about. But maybe they don't have to. It does seem a little bit squirrely. And then we have another example. In this example, the League of Women Voters kind of shocked me on what they did. And again, maybe it's all innocent. I don't believe so. And I don't think it's the individual reporters who are interviewing candidates. I don't know who it is, and I don't know if it's a mistake, but it seems a little coincidental and suspicious to me that, as you can see here, I was interviewed on June the 5th, and they posted the video on YouTube on June the 10th. The problem with that is they then went and interviewed other candidates after my interview was posted, giving the other candidates an unlevel playing field. This particular candidate was interviewed on June the 11th, and they posted his interview on June the 12th. And then after that, lo and behold, they interviewed the incumbent, Rick Larson, on June the 15th. I believe he was the last one interviewed, and he would have probably had access to every single one of his competitors' interviews on this forum during the primary, and posted his a couple days later. Again, intentional? I don't know. I suspect so. I'm just speculating. It's not fair. I've had, we're supposed to have a level playing field. I would think that these groups that claim to be bipartisan would want a level playing field. Why post anyone else's video before all the interviews are complete? And that's a problem for me. And they had a choice. They chose to do it this way. Someone in the organization made a mistake or did it on purpose, but I'm leaning towards did it on purpose. And most people out there don't understand that's how these interviews are conducted. I've already shown you in this race, there's a opportunity for certain candidates to get an advantage over the other candidates. And it sucks. It sucks trying to be a competitive candidate and follow the rules when people do this kind of stuff. And it's hard to trust them. And I'm disappointed in League of Women Voters for what they did. Whether it was an accident or not, they're either just did it out of incompetence or intention. I don't know which one. But it doesn't look good to me, and I doubt it looks good to you guys. Next is some of the state problems I came across. And this is just this election. I've had other problems beyond what I'm about to tell you guys. But I'll explain something here that, irked me. Is the Secretary of State's office, the position you're in on the ballot. So when you open the voter's pamphlet it can benefit you greatly depending on where you're at in the ballot. And so I followed that very closely after my ballot submission. And just so everyone knows, a couple years ago when I was a candidate, they disclosed all of my ballot voter guide information early before the deadline. through a back door in the Secretary of State's online system to where every other candidate could see my voter guide and see it before they had to publish their own. And they could change theirs. They could do all sorts of things because they saw mine. And it's not fair. And they said, oh, that was a mistake. Oops, oops. Well, let me tell you guys what the Secretary of State complains about is nobody now submits their voter pamphlet information until the last minute. The reason why is I think word has gotten out. I shared that information a couple years ago when it happened to me. And it appears there's people with the Secretary of State's office who have favorites. And I believe, my speculation, they try to help out whoever else they can. And those people keep their eyes open for that help whenever they can. And one of the big things is the voter guides. Well, this election wasn't a lot different. I kept my eyes on the voter guide, voter ballot information. And lo and behold, what did I find? I found something very suspicious happened in the position of each of the voters. Each of the candidates. And so I brought that up with the Secretary of State's office, and I thought I would share what they said to me with you guys. I'm a candidate in the 2nd Congressional District in the primary right now. And it appears that the ballot order has changed since it was first issued, and I'm just trying to figure out what's going on with that, and if I'm overlooking something. Yeah, and I see mine hasn't changed. It appeared that Rick Larson's position had changed.
Yeah, like when I first put the order in, there might have been a moment where it appeared differently, but I updated it almost instantaneously, and so it might have switched from one number to another. But then once on Tuesday, when I had it certified, that should be the order that you see now.
Okay, so maybe my eyes weren't crazy. Okay.
No, it's very possible. Like for a moment, it went in as an A, but then it got switched to the 5.
Okay. I think that's all I really had for you. So let me explain this, everybody. So as he said there, oh yeah, he switched it. There was a mistake. He switched things around, and then I can't find any record of what was originally supposed to be in there. They said, oh no, it's supposed. What we have now is right. And I'm like, well, how do I know? They said, well, you just trust us, And what this is all about is the position on the ballot again. So you see all the candidates here. What generally happened is Rick Larson was shifted around, and I considered a much favorable position where he was placed in the end here. Very small change, but I think it's much more favorable to him. And so it just, it irks me fighting the Secretary of State on this stuff because the government, used to be naive. I used to think they were impartial, but I'm past that, and most people don't know. They do these little games. Like I said, my experience a couple of years ago, they disclosed my entire voter guide information before the deadline and let all the other candidates modify theirs before they submitted it, and then they didn't want to talk to me about it ever again. I keep looking for those back doors, and they don't seem to let them out as easy as they used to. Hopefully not at all, right? But people like me are looking, and that's what government accountability is for. But that's something that candidates out there have to be aware of. You can't trust the Secretary of State's office. It's people within them have biases, and it can't be all just coincidence when these things happen. And there's too many things in a row. So year after year, problems with the Secretary of State's office doing things that benefit other candidates. It's very frustrating. And this was not the only experience this year with the Secretary of State's office that frustrated me. One of the other things that frustrated me is that as a candidate and as a leader in election integrity, I pay a lot of attention to how the election system is certified. The state knows that. I have found problems. I've shared with the others out there this year alone. I caught a test failing. They weren't going to even do anything about it. But because I'm involved in election integrity so much, I identified the failure, made them deal with it. It was pretty embarrassing for the Secretary of State's office. So I don't think they like me being around for election certifications. They're called LAT tests, logic and accuracy tests. And according to state law, every single candidate is entitled the right to observe the certification, the logic and accuracy test. The problem I had this year was that a number of county election offices they had coordinated and made their tests so it was impossible for candidates like me to attend all of them because of the time frame of each of the tests. So I brought this to the Secretary of State's attention, and this is what they said, just so you understand.
Elections, how can I help you?
Yeah, I was just disconnected. My name is Cody, and I'm a candidate in the current primary election. And I have been notified of a LAT test in 3 counties that I'm a candidate, all occurring in the same day, and in time frames it will be impossible to attend at least one, if not more of them. I'm wondering if there is a way to adjust this. I know there's flexibility, and I'm hoping to talk to someone who can help me.
So the LNA test dates are set by the county. We do attend if there are state or federal races on this as observers in that process, but the dates are set by the county. So if you, and there are processes, if there has to be sort of an emergency change, things like that. But that discussion will have to go at the county level.
All right. So this is the Secretary of State's office. When I tell them, hey, these county auditors, in this case it was Whatcom, Skagit, and Snohomish. No, excuse me. It was Skagit Island and Snohomish. All had test dates that didn't allow me as a candidate because of their time frame to attend them all. And I was trying to figure out how to fix this because it's a pretty big window of time. They have a couple weeks, but they'd all done them generally on the same day. And so I said, hey, Secretary of State, can you help me out? They said, nope, that is up to the county auditors. You need to coordinate with them. I'm like, all right, fine. And that's what I did. And then I got the responses from all of them that I thought I would share with you guys. So first, you see here, I have the response from Island County. And it says, Mr. Hart, thank you for your interest in attending the Island County Logic Action Test for elections that involve state and federal races. We schedule our LAT test date and time with the Secretary of State office. First off, the Secretary of State says, nope, the auditor does that. And so this seems to be a false statement because of the number of candidates that appear on our ballot and the ability for the political parties and public to attend. We cannot schedule our logic and action test around other schedules. Well, I don't think they really have a choice. They're supposed to be scheduling it so candidates can appear. And generally speaking, just on different days, we'll resolve that. They have weeks to do this. It's not a big deal. And then send a representative because they don't want me there. I just know that. Well, this is Island County. Well, let's take a look at some other ones. Well, lo and behold, this looks awful familiar. This is Skagit County. Thank you for your interest in attending the Skagit County Logic and Action Test for elections. All right, because of the number of candidates, well, this almost looks like the exact same statement. Well, basically because it is. And then I look at Snohomish County one more time. So the county auditors can coordinate to get a response out that I'm up creek without a paddle when it comes to, hey, I know, we all know our schedules conflict. That's not our problem. And they can coordinate for all that and getting these response out, but they can't coordinate to set the LAT test date and a date that complies with the law that I'm supposed to be able to attend it. And so I thought I'd share that with you guys. It's another frustration because I've always known there's coordination. I've known it for years between all of these auditors. They have a very coordinated system in the election system, and they're not supposed to. They're independent agencies, independent auditors. They are not supposed to be coordinating this way. They're supposed to be coordinating to help us and candidates out so the laws are complied with and the public has trust and faith in the election system. But instead, they coordinate to cover their butts and make sure people like me, who are election integrity experts, cannot observe and criticize how they are certifying elections and how their election systems are going. So again, I thought I would share that with everyone. It's, just another par for the course when it comes to the Washington state election system and the Secretary of State's office coordinating to interfere with the candidate's rights. So to move on, I'll share a story that I've talked about in the past, but because it's all related, I just want to make sure other candidates are ready for this. As I'd published a little while back, lawfare is a real thing. And the courts are political. People have got to stop believing they're not. The judges are, the prosecuting attorneys are, they're all extremely political. And that's how Washington State ended up in the mess that we're in right now, is because it is completely polarized. It is a biased judicial system. And as I showed everyone in this article that you guys saw a while back, Deep State Attacks Cody, I've been living through it. And I had them go after me in my private capacity. And they did it with the intention on interfering with and stopping me as a candidate, punishing me for my government accountability efforts, and trying to hurt me. And other candidates out there, you'd better be ready for this. This is a national standard at this point. For those, regardless of your political party, the legal system will go after you if you are in conflict with it, as they have with me, because I have been outing a bunch of corrupt judges, corrupt attorneys across the state. And so as a reminder, I will let everyone who has not watched this video in the full length listen to a key part of this and understand what the judge was telling me.
Okay, so the motion to dismiss, as I indicated previously, is denied. Defendant Hart was served personally. The court has jurisdiction. The claim, $2,000 breach of contract, puts the defendant on notice of that claim. Motion to continue is denied, and the trial will go forward on April 22nd. You can raise all your arguments at trial.
And Judge, am I allowed to know what I'm defending?
You know what you're defending.
I haven't seen a record of it, Judge. I don't think you have either. That's right. And I encourage everyone to watch the whole hearing. I was on trial for being an opposing political party. I was on trial for pointing out government corruption, and this judge is part of it. I consider him a dirtbag, my opinion. He's a complete dirtbag. I hope to see him in federal court here soon. I know he's waiting for it. He knows I'm serious about it. I hope to have him disbarred, removed from the bench, thrown in prison. I hope to have a lot of that happen, but it ain't going to happen overnight. And frankly, I'm not holding my breath because I got to get other judges to hold this judge accountable. So it will happen eventually, but you heard it yourself. He knows what I'm there for. Even if they never say it out loud, they all know why. It's because Cody causes trouble for corrupt government. Cody is a problem for the deep state, and they use this kind of mechanism to go after you. So it's not the only example I have. The other ones I'll share at some future date. They're very sensitive, and still working on them. But I will tell you, you had better be ready for it. Those who think it's not real, it is real. And they will use everything in the government's power to stop you if you go after corrupt government. So as a candidate in the future, be ready for it. Be ready for it. And if you're not willing to go to court, you better get an attorney before you ever file to be a candidate, and make sure they're ready to fight for you, because these guys come at you. They come at you like a bulldozer. They'll try to roll you over. And unless you can stand up for who you are, stand up for your rights, and file paperwork in court, they will mess you up. And luckily, I've got squashed a little bit, but they haven't been able to take me out. And I hope to keep it that way while I go after them. Well, this next one's not very fun to talk about. For those, many out there don't know this happened. This is the first time I've talked about it. But as everyone experienced, most people are not silly to think this doesn't happen. There is threats of harm to candidates, and there's violence out in the political system, as we saw. And just 2 days before President Trump was shot, I had a threat made against me, where they had told me they were targeting MAGA. It was done in a very convincing way as a threat to me. And I had sat on it because I generally don't want to deal with these things. People are a lot of talk. But then President Trump got shot, and I shortly thereafter decided, you know what, I'm going to let the police know about this. And these kind of things are out there. We have a very extremist, violent movement in this country right now that are trying to stop the political process. And this is unfortunately an experience I had with it. Again, to be stated that this person was targeting MAGA, and again, words like traitor and blah, blah, blah were said. It was not a lot to read between the lines. I did end up reporting it. I had to make a police report. I'm very upset with how the police dealt with it. They said, well, yeah, we don't consider it a threat. We're not going to let the Attorney General or anyone else know about it. And then the detective told me they never even asked the person what they meant by targeting MAGA in those precise words. Very disappointed. It is just how it is, you guys. I have lost a lot of faith in our institutions because of the political biases, because they don't seem to be sincere about doing their jobs. And this was a personal one to me. I don't like being threatened, and I'm hopeful that this never goes any further and the person got the message. But at the same time, it shouldn't happen. And this is part of the tactics that are out there. Again, all this stuff is tactics to intimidate candidates. I don't want to discourage people from running for office, but these are things you have to worry about, and it's not even the worst. I personally think this next one is the worst. Unfortunately, one of the things they don't warn you about, and that I have found is a very serious concern for candidates out there, is substances being introduced to us without our knowledge. You can call it poison. You can call it roofies. You can call it other things. I personally believe it's happened to me. I've had to contact federal authorities over it. I have two other people that are involved in these fights against government. They both believe the same things have happened to them. And when I mean same things, foreign substances, poisons introduced to them. And it is not a fun thing to talk about. I was really debating about sharing this with people out there. But it is a fact that this is something I think everyone running for office in Washington State needs to be aware of. Because first off, part of it that caught me off guard is these don't necessarily show up as, hey, you're going to the hospital, you're going to be dead. You hope that never happens, obviously. But it looks like what's going on is the tactic is to introduce substances to screw with people's physical and mental states. And I think most of it happened to me through the end of last year, beginning of this year. And I was able to get out of the environment where I think it was happening. Again, I've had to make reports to federal authorities over it. I doubt they're going to do much because the federal FBI and all those guys, frankly, I have no faith in any of them. But it's a real concern. Others I've talked to say they just straight up don't remember entire parts of nights. They've had problems convincing law enforcement of it. I've had attorneys through allies of mine go into local Skagit County police investigative agencies, and they came out of there telling me it's a massive problem in Skagit County that they were told about. And one of the big problems with it is proving it. And for all the candidates out there, you will have a very hard time proving it. You need to look into some of the preventative measures. I'm not going to give medical advice, and the list of potential substances are massive. What you have in front of you here is a correspondence with the Washington State Patrol Toxicology Lab, where I asked for their feedback on it. They shared this information with me. They have a couple hundred cases a year related drug-facilitated crime investigations. And I hate to say, I think most candidates and most people in this fight don't know what's happening to them. And that was my case. I didn't know what was happening to me until it gotten to the point where I'm like, something is happening to me. And I think I eliminated it in the people who are behind it. And it's very hard to prove through toxicology because in my research, I found out most of the stuff that is out there. Roofies is a common way to talk about it. There are other things. There are other things to worry about that they frankly have a very difficult, if not impossible time picking up on toxicology results. More so even if you wait even a day. So if you don't know what's happening, you can't get in and get the blood tests that are necessary to find out. So if you are a candidate in Washington State and you feel off, you feel something is happening to me, you may want to go seek advice of a medical professional. I will let them tell you what to do. I will just tell you it is an actual threat. out there in this political environment that I personally feel I'm a victim of. Others I know feel they're victims of as well. And it's very hard to prove. There does not seem to be much effort by law enforcement to protect candidates from this. They dismiss it, frankly, because I think a lot of them are politically biased. And the other part of it is because, like I said, it's very hard, if not impossible, to prove. So if you do have something to you, make sure you bring it up almost immediately with law enforcement to get the record established, and potentially you can find out for sure. I know I found out in my experience it's very hard, if not impossible, if you wait even a night or two. It's just out of your system. And even then, there's natural substances that test with you that, frankly, are the level of them you would have to have a baseline test for to know if it was elevated or not. And it gets very complicated after that unless you catch the people doing it firsthand, get them video recorded, which is very hard to do because it's very easy to do this to people. So I'm a social butterfly, and I'll just tell you, just like in this article here, it says, in this, just like this email from the Washington State Patrol, I'll read this to you guys. In general, we advise the public, especially young people at parties, bars, nightclubs, etc., to be situationally aware at all times. It is always good to go out with a trusted friend or family member, someone who you can depend on to watch out for you, and someone who likely is dependent on you to do the same. Drinks or food prepared or served by anyone who is not a professional, like a bartender, wait person, or caterer, could have a higher chance of being manipulated in some ways. I'll add that higher, yes, but the bartenders and waitresses, be careful. I'm just telling you, be careful. The same is true for something new that you are not accustomed to and don't have anything to compare it to as far as appearance, taste, smell, or impact. Watch your intake in both volume and impact. One of the joys of going out is meeting new people, most of whom are usually doing the same thing that you are, having a good time and enjoy other people's company. But we have to remember that not everyone is on the up and up. Some people take advantage of the natural trust, curiosity, and friendliness of others. So sometimes we have to trust our instincts more than a friendly face. If a situation does not feel right or feels too good to be true, it just might not be. Watch out for yourself and your trusted friends and get out of there if you perceive danger or suspicious behavior. Call 911 if you think someone is trying to use any substance to make you do something you don't want to do or know you shouldn't do. Bottom line, protect yourself by keeping your eyes open, your antenna up, and your brain engaged. Healthy caution and the confidence to say no thanks is never a bad idea. You guys, there's a lot of things to think about. So here you are trying to be a good American. You want to engage in the political system in Washington State. And I know from my own experience, we have a lot of candidates that are not up for the task. And I know a lot of people who should be candidates because they'd be great for the job, and they don't want to be. And I'm not trying to discourage them, but understand that things are going to keep getting worse in our political environment. The things I've mentioned today, the media, the Secretary of State's office, the threats to your personal harm, they're all very real things to worry about. I'm not trying to discourage you, but you better be smart. This is not a game. This is not just friendly opinions of people are different. There are people out there with bad intentions. And I've known that, and I protected myself as much as I can. I've gotten this far, and I plan on keep going. But it wouldn't shock me if something slipped between the cracks someday. Everyone out there understand that. You know, they kid around. I'm not suicidal. I don't have health problems. All that's true. And if anything happened, I would hope everyone would know that it was probably malicious and someone out there did it. And unfortunately, it's a risk to be in the political light in Washington State. And I think we've lost a lot of good potential public servants because of that. And it's unfortunate, and I don't blame them. It's no fun. But for the others who understand the risk, prepare for it. I hope this helps open your eyes to what you're getting yourself in for. And it helps everyone else who's not in politics understand what candidates are facing and understand that there are evil people. And if you see something, say something. So I know I went over a lot. There's a lot more detail to things I'm not going to share because they're ongoing. Unfortunately, I don't want to tease you guys, but that's the reality of it. I have more articles coming out on other subjects, so keep your eyes and ears open. Thank you very much.